Hello and welcome back to the Savvy Street Show. Today we have a very special guest. His name is Craig Kelly. He is the number one Senate candidate for the Libertarian Party in the federal election 2025. Welcome to the show, Craig.
Hey, great to be with you, Vinay.
Lovely. Okay, now tell us a little bit about your political journey.
Well, Vinay, I think I've always been fairly conservative or conservative libertarian, whatever you want to call it, in my approach. I'm not someone that started out in the Greens Party and sort of like drifted across, right? I think from my even high primary school days that I can remember, they were the years of Gough Whitlam. I can remember how hard it was making for my father, who had a small business at the time, and the disastrous policies of Gough Whitlam. So ever since I've been, I said, from primary school, I've been on the right side of politics. I say the right side of politics is the right side of politics. Look, and then I was always had an interest in politics, but you've got you grew up, you have your sport. I played first grade rugby here in Sydney. You've got your family business you're involved in. You've got your family. There's not a lot of time, often when you're in your 20s and your 30s, for politics, because there's so many other things you're doing in your life. And I got an interest in politics. I'd always had an interest, always followed politics, but I really took a really keen interest in the early 2000s when I saw what I thought the Liberal Party were doing at the time in the issue of competition policy was heading in the wrong direction. And that's when I joined a group called the Council of Small Businesses to try and lobby, for policies that help small business more or just give them a quality of opportunity. Then I saw that these people were, they weren't aggressive enough. They weren't as strong as they should have been. And then I sort of watched the rise of Kevin Rudd and how Kevin Rudd won Kevin 07 with the madness of, just the complete marketing, nothing other than marketing spin that he won by in 2007. And then in 2009, I joined the Liberal Party, put my hand up to run for the seat of Hughes where I lived. The sitting member was retiring and I was successful in that. Sat as a Liberal member, fought with Tony Abbott in 2010, where we effectively won the election campaign, but we had Oakeshott and Windsor fake independents supporting the Labor Party. Otherwise, that Tony would have won. And then 2013, when we fought with Tony, we actually won government, which was a magnificent time to be involved in the Liberal Party. When everyone was pulling together, we marched in the streets against the carbon tax. And sort of the day that basically Tony took over, it all started to fall apart. There was factional differences and people trying to feather their own nest, and people trying to get rid of Tony. It was really an appalling thing to sit there and watch. And then they rolled Tony, and I became a bit of a dissenter on much of the policies of the Liberal Party after Tony Abbott left. And then during COVID, I just saw what the party was doing with the exact opposite of everything I believed in, everything the party stood for. So I resigned. I took the step of resigning as a member of the Liberal Party and moved to the crossbench and sat as an independent in 2021. And that was not an easy thing to do because I knew it'd be very difficult to retain your seat. Much easier to stay there with inside the party apparatus, suck up, go along, don't rock the boat, don't say anything that's controversial. Just, that's the way the party wants people to do it. And I just thought there were too many important issues and I couldn't shut up, so I left.
Terrific. I mean, that's one thing that I have always admired about you. You put integrity above your own career. It indeed was a very courageous thing to do.
Well, look, it might have been, financially, it might have been a stupid thing to do because the reality is a federal member of parliament, a 3-year term guarantees you $1 million.
Wow.
When you add the salaries, the extras, the cars, the superannuation, it's easily $1 million salary for 3-year period. So
wow.
If I could have shut up, just sat there, said nothing during COVID, not rock the boat, and had a safe seat, get another 3 years, $1 million, without too much of a worry, and then after, if you wanted to sort of step aside for someone else, you've got all the appointments that the government can give you, right? There's all the ambassadorships around the world, right? Like 5-year contract, $500,000 in salary, no tax paid sort of thing as an ambassador overseas. You've got all these government board appointments that you can go on. So by stepping away from the Liberal Party, you also, you cut yourself off of that. They're never going to come back and give you one of these cushy post-politics roles. So it was, I had to, I wish I could say it was pure, I didn't worry, but I must admit I had to think twice about the financial consequences, because it's not just yourself, it's your family you're thinking about. And I reached the point where I couldn't live with myself if I sat there and just shut up during COVID, when I had all the best doctors in the world telling me what was going on was just completely wrong.
Yeah. I mean, that is a lot to walk away from when you're not a billionaire like Clive Farmer.
That's right. Well, for anyone, it's it's a substantial amount to.
It sets you up for retirement, and now you got to sort of.
Yeah, look, so now it's okay. Look, I put that aside. Okay, you just you're not going out. You're not going to. You're not flying first class overseas, or buying the latest Lamborghini or anything like that. You look, but you get on and you live, and most of all, you live with your conscience, because I can be absolutely crystal clear in my mind that I did the right thing.
I think so. You did,
and that is
good for us libertarians. I'm the candidate in Barton, for that matter, and that's what we've been saying about you.
And Vinay, for that is worth more than any amount of money in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Peace of mind. Now, one thing you spoke about recently was the new hate speech law at the federal level. And are we going down the route where the United Kingdom is, where you can be jailed for making a Facebook post or sharing a Facebook post?
Well, that's right. Look, this legislation firstly was rushed through the Parliament. The Senate, remember, the Senate's meant to be a house of review. The Labor and Liberal Party got together, guillotined the debate on that, and allowed 1 hour for debate on this legislation. They got 76 senators, right? That's 50 seconds each that they're allowed to debate. This is what the Liberal. This is legislation that should have gone through the most rigorous scrutiny. It should have all the unintended consequences. It should have been widely debated in the public, but instead they rushed it through, because they knew that if the public were awake to what they were doing, the public would have said no. Now, what this legislation does, you are right, it criminalises speech on social media. If you put up something that offends these laws or is in contradiction of these laws on your social media, or you share it, the police can come around, knock on your door, take you into custody, and you can be imprisoned now for 5 to 7 years in this country for a Facebook a Facebook post or a Twitter post, because you said something, and all you have to do, and you can say it in good faith.
Absolutely.
You can say it as a genuine, honest opinion, and you can still put in jail. All you have to do, this law basically, it's the reverse onus. Firstly, they have these so-called protected groups. The protected groups include transgender, religious identity, and also political opinion. So if you belong to one of these so-called protected groups and someone says something that you apprehend in your mind, so it's not the intent of the person saying it, it's how you as a protected group, right, apprehended in your mind. If you think that could result in some type of force, and it's not physical violence, it's force. And remember, force can be moral force, it can be intellectual force, force can just sort of be standing there, blocking. Force has a very wide definition, much lower bar than physical violence. So if that person has apprehension that they may have force used against them, because what you said, that's 5 to 7 years in jail. And remember, this legislation is not standalone. This legislation ties in with the digital ID and the age verification bill, right? So, and this will all happen after the elections. Remember that they gave the job, again, the Liberal and Labor Party gave the job to the safety commissioner to work out how this is all going to work. So right now, we've got people. They wouldn't be doing it now. I know they might do a couple of hours of work from home, working out how this will be deployed. But we know after the election campaign, every Australian will need some form of digital ID to log on to the internet to verify that you are over 16 years of age or over. Right? That's the Trojan horse of that bill. They said, we've got to protect the children. We must protect the children. Nothing to do with protecting the children. It was to make sure that when you as an Australian log on to the internet. They know who you are and where you live. And therefore, if you post something that's, as I said, causes someone apprehension in their mind,
Yeah.
that they could have some force used against them, or you are the guilty one, you've got to, I don't know how you prove yourself innocent about what happened in someone else's mind. That's 5 to 7 years in jail. And so this will all come in. This hasn't happened, even though it's on the statutes now. The police haven't been enforcing it because they're waiting until after the election. They're waiting until after this age verification legislation and requirements all come in, and then bang, there will be an iron clamp on free speech in this country.
God, I mean, it's a long way from what George Brandes said once. We have the right to be bigots.
That's right.
I was very grateful for that line, but this is the same Liberal Party. Hard to believe that they're quite happy to criminalize an ordinary political discussion.
Yeah. Well, George Brandis's, his, I don't say his view, but this is a view throughout history.
Absolutely.
The best way to beat bad ideas is not with censorship, but is with more free and open debate. And these people that are so-called think real, true hate speech, right? The best way to stop them and deflect them is to bring them out in the open, flush them out in the open, and debate their ideas in public. Now, if you allow their ideas to be brushed under the carpet where they fester in darkness, that's where these ideas spread and get some currency. Bring these ideas out in the open. Let the people who say this, let them come out and publicly say that. And you don't need to jail them. The punishment is public ridicule and being held up as a joke and being debated and look like an idiot. Yeah. That's how you defeat hate speech. Absolutely. You don't defeat hate speech through censorship and jail sentences.
Yeah, I don't know where Germany's gone backward again, but about 10, 15 years ago, I think it was, Germany lifted the ban on Hitler's book, Mein Kampf, if I'm pronouncing the German right, my word, because they said people have got to know what the history was.
Look, I see. Somehow or other, I see it online. There's some sort of like, how would I describe it? Some type of like, he's maybe Hitler was right. Yeah. If you say you can't discuss the issues, right, it creates in people's mind, well, maybe there was something to them. No, let's bring all those ideas out. Let's get the book out. Let's debate it chapter and verse. Let's discuss what he did, right? And let's show how actually terrible it was. That's the way you defeat it. Trying to have laws that, like as kids at school, the Nazi salute, which if I put my hand out now, I can be, jail now, right? We used to do it to teachers, and when teachers became over authoritarian, you put the fingers under to mock the moustache, and you give the Hitler salute, right? Yeah. As though you were mocking that person because they were over authoritarian. That was what you did. It was mocking, right? Yeah. I got time with Hogan's Heroes, which is one of the greatest shows, done as a comedy, but one of the greatest shows about freedom and individuality and the problems of the Nazi, how the Nazis ran things, right? A show like we mocked it and we laughed at it and we talked about it. That is the best way to do things. Today, a show like Hogan's Heroes could never be made because it'd be censored.
So, I mean, that free speech is my and many people's biggest concern. And the other thing, of course, is huge inflation, and we have this crazy climate alarm. And it was quite disturbing to see, I think Clive Palmer may be preferencing the Teals, and the Teals are not small L liberals, for those who know. What do you make of that kind of approach that Clive's
adopted? Well, look, firstly, the Teals are Greens in disguise, right? Yeah. They are fake independents. I had at my last election campaign 2 Teal candidates running against me, right? Yeah. These were the most self-centered, self-righteous people that I've ever met in my life, right? I think the best description of it is Gucci Greens, right? Yeah. They're the very wealthy Greens. Yeah. And they ran around, we must take action on climate change, right? But they're greatest hypocrites. You've seen in the northern beaches there where Zali Steggall's electorate is. She's all for offshore wind turbines, but not on Manly, right? Don't put them on. Right? This is a crisis.
Not in my backyard, yeah.
It's a crisis. We must do something, right? But not in our backyard, right? Yeah. And what's what surprised me is the weakness of the Liberal Party on this, right?
Yeah.
I saw Peter Dutton and one of the other Liberal MPs being asked the question, do you believe in climate change, right? And they're sort of like taking the oath. Right? If someone asks you, if a journalist asks you, if I was advising my former Liberal colleagues, and if someone asked, the journalist asks you, do you believe in climate change? I'd firstly say, that is the most nonsense question I've ever heard.
Agreed. Right? Yeah.
Tell me when in the history of the Earth the climate has never changed.
Yeah.
Right? We've been through ice ages, and now the climate continually changes. Right? Now the real question is the climate change that's occurring now, is it good, bad, or indifferent? And if you look at all the data, the warming that we've enjoyed since the start of the Little Ice Age, we're coming out of that Little Ice Age in about the late 1700s, early 1800s, has been beneficial to mankind. Right? You look at all the charts, all the graphs, right? Today is the safest time in human history when it comes to extreme weather events. No generation has been safer than today's generation from extreme weather events. Every indicator that you can look at shows that there is no such thing as a climate emergency. The number of climatic events is declining. The insurance cost, GDP per capita, is declining. Here in Australia, even the number of cyclones in the Australian area is declining, both severe and non-severe. And yet we've got record crop yields. The islands that are meant to be sinking, Tuvalu and these places, the peer-reviewed science says they're growing in size. So the idea that we've got to take this real action on climate change by destroying our economy, transferring our wealth offshore to China, because everything in the name of climate change makes Australians poorer and communist China richer. Every single policy, right? Yeah. Through them. Subsidising solar panels. China becomes wealthier, we become poorer. Subsidising wind turbines. China's wealthier, we're poorer. Subsidising all these electric cars. China's wealthier, we're poorer. Stopping Australians from using our own coal. We higher electricity costs in Australia. That same coal gets shipped off to China for China to use. Electricity is cheaper for Chinese people. That costs us more. So, and at the end of the day, I was with Professor Plimer the other week. Mm-hmm. Even if, let's just assume that CO2 is this magical control knob that allows you to dial up the temperature, right? Let's just assume that's right. Mm-hmm. If Australia goes, and the numbers, and these are the IPCC's numbers, Bjorn Lomborg has run, and a few other statisticians. Even if this is this control knob, and even if the IPCC is 100% right, if Australia goes net zero by 2050, and that includes culling all the dairy herds, all the beef herds, getting rid of all our sheep, right? Taking all our trucks, electric trucks, closing down our airports and traffic. If we do that by 2050, the saving, the warming averted is 1/100th of 1 degree Celsius by the year 2100. You can't even measure it. And this idea, people say, oh yes, but if Australia does it, all the other nations in the world will follow. Well, the US certainly ain't following. Yeah. They've got out of Paris. They said nonsense to net zero by 2050. China's not following. India's not following. Russia's not following. Indonesia's not following. So you've got the largest countries by economic size and population all saying this is a nonsense and we're not following it. And little old Australia is plugging along, damaging our economy, making us all poorer, especially poorer vis-a-vis communist China, for 1/100th of 1 degree by the year 2100.
Crazy. And I hope now even Argentina will follow. Milei is already saying he probably will exit the Paris Accord.
Yes.
It's good. Last question of the day. Why should people vote for you and our alliance ticket in the New South Wales?
Okay. Well, firstly, we have had the worst government in the nation's history. Right? Albanese has been our worst Prime Minister. Look at some of the parameters. He got elected lying to the public about a $275 discount on their electricity bills. Right? The more renewables you put in the grid, the higher electricity prices go. And he's promising more of the same, and electricity prices are going to go. So he's lied before to get elected, and he's going to put electricity prices higher. Right? He has made GDP per capita in this nation is going backwards. So we are becoming poorer compared to the rest of the world. you look at real household incomes, it has declined 8% since Albanese has been here. That is the biggest decline on record of any government in the nation's history. We're going back. That's why people are doing it so tough. Right? He's divided the nation with $500 million on that voice campaign, which failed, 60-40. Then it comes, what's his plans going forward? He's planning to borrow another $180 billion over the next 4 years, adding to the debt. He's got population out of control. We see rents, the average family paying rents and struggling is paying 40% more rent at least because of Albanese's immigration policies. Housing affordability is off the charts. Kids today have just given up. Albanese has destroyed the great Australian dream for an entire generation. He should be getting absolutely smashed in the polls. And yet we've got in opposition, we've got a weak opposition that will not stand up and will not call them out and just wants to appease all these left-wing ideologies. So this country desperately needs, in that next parliament, people that are going to stand up there and fight and push back against all this left-wing ideology. And I believe that if you look at it, there's several parties that are on the to the right of the Liberal Party. I believe that the Libertarians are far the strongest of those parties. Firstly, we are the only party that is truly democratic. Right? The other parties, the trumpets and the other ones, all centrally controlled by one or two people that control it. Right? You can't build a political party based on one person controlling it. You must have a democratic basis for the party, and that is what the Libertarian Party is. The Libertarian Party here in New South Wales, we've got 10, 12 branches that meet regularly, but these other parties have either none or one or two branches, right, that meet occasionally. We've set up a network of branches which we're going to keep working on, win, lose or draw after this election campaign. We're going to keep fighting and keep raising the issues and keep building the party's strengths. And finally, two more points. New South Wales, we're running this joint ticket. Now, people have said to me after the election, you've got to stop this fragmentation of the vote, this conservative libertarian vote. You've all got to come together. That's what everyone said to me after the last election. I tried. Some of the parties they just want to do their own thing, weren't interested, right? So we've been able here in New South Wales to put together a coalition, a freedom coalition of Gerard Rennick's People First, the Heart Party, which is the previously informed, Medical Options Party.
Yeah.
So it's a joint triple ticket freedom coalition. So we're asking people that are on our side that like come and support that coalition ticket. Come and show and send a message to the other minor parties that they should unite together. Right? If you're voting for that ticket, you're not only voting for the ticket, you are sending a message to all the other freedom parties. We've got to come together. Right?
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
And finally,
yeah.
I'm shouting my own trumpet here, or shouting my own. Right?
You can.
Trumpet's not probably the best word, but I'm shouting my own best. Okay. Look, I'm number one on that ticket, and I believe that I have got the runs on the board to show that if I get into that next parliament in that Senate, I'll go to those Senate estimate hearings and I will take no prisoners. If you want someone that's going to go in there and go after these bureaucrats, that knows where the bodies are buried, that has already had 12 years experience in understanding how the parliament works and how the parliamentary system works, right? I believe that any Senate candidate from any party on that ballot paper, I am best positioned to do that. Not because of just the policies, what we've got going forward, because of my track record in the past of being able to stand up and not go along with what the big parties are telling us to say.
Thank you. Indeed, I completely believe you. Your integrity is absolutely unquestionable because that's what the track record is. Plus, your experience allows you to find, the skeletons a lot quicker than anyone else will find.
Well, that's right. It looks like, unfortunately, we're going to have an Albanese, Greens government. Yeah. So whoever's in those opposition, who's ever on that government opposition, you need people with big spears. You need people that are going to go after them. You need people that are not going to be frightened to say something because the ABC is going to attack them, right? You want something that can go after these people and hold these people to account and hold their bureaucracies to account. And I believe that is what I will be able to do if I'm elected to the Senate. So I'm asking everyone across the nation, put the Libertarians first, but especially here in New South Wales, put that joint freedom ticket first.
Thank you. And to those who are listening, I hope you got a good dose of the integrity-based and principles-based Craig Kelly here. And then again, he's joined a party which is also completely based on principles. And thank you for listening. Authorized by Vinay Kolhatkar for the Libertarian Party, Tulin Parade, Preston, New South Wales.